I almost acquired a scam hit company, and it was such a roller coaster ride. There's been nothing more difficult, and you're sitting on $100 million of mark-to-market loss. January 7th and April 13th, I remember I had sleepless nights.
When Mumbai Attacks happened, how did that affect?
I remember that day somebody shooting, and
If you have given a chance, whose mind you would like to know?
Steve Jobs. He was such a visionary. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have got products that we have, especially not in the same time frame.
So you did MBA from IIM and you're doing an MBA again with INSEAD. What is the motivation?
I ask myself that daily.
Hey folks, welcome to the 4th episode of INSEAD's Insights. Today we have a very interesting guest who doesn't need an introduction. He is a finance whiz. He has worth of 16 years of experience in M&A and has done $2 billion deals. He is known for challenging professors in the class. He does run M&A simulation. He is not known just across SG but Fonty and Abu Dhabi. So he is none other than Shalaut. Hi Shalaut.
Hi Pavan. Okay. Very excited to be here. I think we've been manifesting it for a while.
For a very long time.
So yeah, very excited.
So, thank you. I know this journey is more about knowing you a little bit, your professional achievements. Visited your LinkedIn profile multiple times. One of the things that caught my eye is 16 years of professional experience.
Correct.
With a $2 billion investment deals.
Correct.
Of all investment deals, like for me, $2 billion is like such a big amount.
Correct.
And what was the most challenging moments? Like what was the most challenging deal?
So a lot of them actually. I think when I started, my first one was very challenging. The first real one, because it just went on for 2 years. And I think an MBA, a fresh out of college kind of a person, my boss just said that, okay, now just go divest this business unit and you have to do a financial carve out. I had no idea what a financial carve out is and anything of that sort. And I think I just learned along the way because I loved the subject and the entire, the entire platform which was given to me so much. Thereafter, I think not many people know that, but I almost acquired a scam hit company. And it was such a roller coaster ride. There's been nothing more difficult because everything that you rely on, the financials, everything, and you have gone ahead and invested based on that, it's just a lie.
Yeah.
One fine day, a letter comes in saying that it's all fraud. So then, and you're sitting on a 500 crore, almost, $100 million of mark-to-market loss. Wow. So those are the kind of experiences that I've had, which taught me a lot. I think I was very fortunate to start my career with a very large company. I think in 2007 when I joined them, they were almost $10 billion of revenue.
US dollars?
US dollars, yes.
Wow.
Of revenue. And I think I was one of the 6-member team who was looking at the entire M&A for that company. And it didn't feel like this to begin with, but then I think along the way I realized the enormity of it. So it was an awesome journey there. And then, I went on to do things in pharma. I remember first 6 months of my pharma career, I couldn't even pronounce the products. They're so difficult. I always thought that there's nothing, but it was horrible for me. But I learned along the way. I spent 9 years with my second company. Where they went, I don't know. Those years went. Then here I am with another avatar.
Your journey is so amazing. So you mentioned you dealt with a fraud company, especially 2007, and $10 billion is a massive amount. Like maybe in today's time, 10 billion, every other company is $10 billion company, but back then it's a big deal.
Correct.
And is it true that, Satyam back in the day, such a big publicly fraud-sized company in India, were you part of acquiring them at some point, or Is that the company?
That's the company I'm referring to. So I was the one, we were front running the most expected ones, because we had, in fact, before the scam got declared, gone ahead and purchased shares in the open market for that company. We were about to put in our proposal, and suddenly the scam got exposed. And I remember it's so vivid because I remember the dates pretty well. It was 7th of January 2009 when the scam got exposed. It took me my first visit to Hyderabad, where we're sitting today, to actually Satyam offices somewhere in February, and April 13th was the final bid date. Between January 7th and April 13th, I remember I had sleepless nights.
I could imagine.
My Excel models, final version was version 97. Okay, so I made 97 versions of it.
Wow.
Dealt with lawyers and bankers all around the globe.
Wow.
And finally, we presented something which eventually it didn't work for them. But nothing could beat that experience.
Wow. It's such a coincidence because Satyam is right next to where I am working today.
Correct.
And Satyam is bought by Tech Mahindra over the years. And
yes.
It's worth, I think, their market cap is around 15 to 20 billion
Correct.
US dollars today's
Exactly.
terms.
Exactly.
That's such, I could imagine like that 2 months, you should be going through like hell lot of time. And it was your first deal.
It wasn't my first deal.
But major.
First major deal. I think I did one major deal before. I joined in 2007. Started working on M&A deals. 2007, I think the first one which I majorly did, I sold a ready mix business from L&T, from Larsen & Toubro, to Lafarge, which is again a global conglomerate, $350 million deal. And that remains till date the highest valuation deal of that sector.
Wow.
So we got some 15x EBITDA, and now EBITDA. Yes, and now I think deals are happening at 6 or 7 times EBITDA. So the value that we created at that point of time for all shareholders was very, very immense. And then of course the Satyam deal also happened.
Yeah.
Again, a very, very roller coaster kind of a ride for me.
And what was your first M&A deal?
Very first was I invested about $10 million in an infra consultancy, and just after that, as I said, I was divesting a ready-mix concrete business, which was overall a $350 million deal. But the funny thing was that it had 68 plants all over the country.
Wow.
And therefore I had to group them together and sell it as one business.
Oh wow.
And it was such a mess. As I said, things like financial carve out, vendor due diligence, making of a trial balance, I just learned on the go.
Gotcha.
And I think I remember I was put in front of the topmost law firm of India, because Lafarge, which was the buyer, had hired them, and thankfully I had no clue of who they are. Okay, so I just in my brashness just kind of bulldozed them over.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you X and not Y, and so on and so forth, and just made the deal happen.
Wow, that's like a David Goliath. Like ignorance is a bliss sometimes.
It is absolutely
amazing. So from where you are now, how it started to where you are now. So you're based in Mumbai.
I'm based in Mumbai. I've actually been based in Mumbai after my MBA.
Okay. So the financial capital of India, which is where most action is happening. I want to know this aspect, like when Mumbai Attacks happened. 26/11,
correct,
which is the Indian version of 9/11.
Correct.
Where were you?
The day that it happened, near the Taj area. So I used to stay with friends, with a roommate, and we were all from the same college. And there were a group of us who were staying nearby, and we would generally go towards that area in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that day we again had plans to go to that area to just hang out. And somebody was not feeling well, so they said that, okay, this guy is not feeling well, so we're just coming to your home and we'll hang out there. And I remember somewhere around 10 o'clock or 10:30, 11 o'clock, some reports started coming in, and folks said that okay, there is some shooting happening, somebody shooting, and I mean, we would hear stories of the 90s, those gang war shootings in Mumbai. Maybe that's the kind of background we had, and we said that okay, now something is happening, so let's go to our homes, respective homes. Thankfully, I was in my home, the others were there, so either go home or stay there. Everybody decided to go their own home, and the next 3 days we were just kind of stuck in our own home. So we didn't venture to go out because it was all over the news, and everybody and parents started panicking.
Of course, yeah.
A lot of people, and but I mean, it was kind of a COVID scenario. You can't go out.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, thankfully we were past that. It was a tension.
Yeah.
Full kind of an area.
I think the whole world was watching.
Correct.
At least like this part of the world.
Exactly.
I remember as a kid, I was just glued up to the TV and watching the live. All the flames on the...
True, exactly. And it's very vivid because, in the past 1 year, I've been to those places, almost every night you're there.
Yes.
You see it on TV and, with a very different view of what's happening. Somebody is attacking, somebody is dying. It was moving. I mean, it was not very easy to take it.
I think. But again, back then, we weren't as connected as we are today. Like today, you could WhatsApp people, you Instagram people and tell them everything is fine. But back then, the only source of news is maybe media or newspaper the following day. Yeah, so...
In fact, I think thank God for that.
Yes, I agree.
Because, when you have like too much of sources like we have now, it just creates much more panic.
Yeah.
So thank God for that we didn't have so much that we could just watch the TV, go to sleep, just know that don't venture outside the home. And also not so much, I mean, the news is not relaying out to so many people outside. So kind of sometime over information is also bad.
Yeah, it is very bad. So, compared to the times of 2008, 11 and today's world, technology has exploded. Social media has exploded. We are way more connected than before. And lately, there is advancement of AI. And 4-5 years back, there is like so much talk about blockchain affecting the financials. How is that blockchain or crypto affect M&A?
So, what used to happen about 7, 8, 10 years back, that there was no thought of doing M&A in sectors like technology or crypto, blockchain, and so on and so forth, because they used to be an emerging technology. It's like a very small part of the overall world. I think over the last few years, that has exploded. So you have this whole new industries which are coming up. Every industry goes through that typical curve. There's growth, there's saturation, then there's consolidation. So I think they're somewhere near that nearing of end growth period wherein a lot of consolidation will take place, and that's creating a lot of opportunities in terms of acquiring, how you look at more companies, whether you want to do more of consolidation amongst all these technologies. So do you want to, for example, I'm sure if not today, in very short period of time we will have this coin merging with the other coin. Something like that will happen. In terms of other AIs, you will have a lot of platforms merging with each other, because you simply cannot sustain a fragmented stuff everywhere. I mean, because people also tend to gravitate. I mean, at the end of the day, why did Facebook acquire WhatsApp and Instagram? It's simply because having those companies on a fragmented basis is simply not going to work. The users, the customers are going to go towards one. So one will have all the power, and the bigger it is, the better it is. So eventually, I think
everything will. But that's exactly opposite to the point when compared to blockchain, right? It's built on the concept of decentralized, at least in theory and papers.
Correct.
So meaning no centralized power holds the authority. Lately, with Trump coming into power, you see the Bitcoin has crossed 100K lately. So will there be transactions like in M&A happening in cryptos?
There will be. I think there will be, because it's not about the technology being centralized or decentralized. The highest person of that sector needs to have the power. So if Bitcoin has crossed so much, which means people will rely much more on Bitcoin than the other coins.
Yeah.
So you will typically need to have that power given to it, and your power only comes with size.
Yeah.
There are of course other ways as well, but size is one of the major motivators.
Got it.
And therefore I feel that it's going
It'll be adapted. So even the investor portfolio has changed in the last decade.
It has to a great extent.
Like in what way? Like meaning investors before like 2010, where the investors coming from certain parts of the world, now they are diversified.
They are, especially what has happened is that a lot of new investors who have made money in things like crypto, in the new age things,
Tech
billionaires and so on and so forth, they have come in as a new class of investors. I mean, they didn't have. So earlier, I think I remember by 2010 or something, either you would have large families as investors and their floated ventures, or you would have the sovereign funds. Okay, or the pension funds and so on and so forth. While those are still active, but now you have a lot more of these tech billionaires, crypto billionaires. Now I'm sure there'll be some AI billionaires.
Of course,
So and they are driving a lot of the newer investments and how the world is shaping up now. That's becoming very, very interesting.
Is it a good thing how this is going? Because back in the days, like a decade back, as you said, it's very conventional, meaning sovereign funds or pension funds or big banks or like big family ventures. But now it's like a lot of new faces are coming into the world of venture capitalism. There are angel investors, you name it. Like lately, many things are coming up. Is it good for this landscape?
I think it's good. Because what it has brought about is also the ability for young entrepreneurs to come into the play. I mean, when I started, we didn't talk about it, but before my MBA, I actually was an entrepreneur because I started a small business along the lines of my family business. Typically, what happened is that the school that I went to, I started making trophies for them. I mean, I saw that they were distributing trophies, so I made them and sold it to them and so on. But the problem was that entrepreneurship was not in fashion at that point of time. So I would always question myself that why am I wasting my time? Okay, and therefore which pushed me towards more professionalism and therefore go to do an MBA and take out a professional career. But now people are not bound by such.
Yes.
So because they know, and back in the day, again in the 2010s and so on, same issue used to happen because you can't go to a sovereign fund to say that, okay, I'm starting off this small AI business and therefore, why don't you fund me and so on and so forth. Nobody would look at it.
Yeah.
But now people have a lot of these opportunities because of, so much wealth which has been created by the younger lot, and they understand things much better in a way than what we used to do.
Definitely that stereotype has been broken. Like, that thinking process, like the thought process back in the days, being entrepreneur is not very enticing. Maybe more like a professional settled job. But now I see how entrepreneurship, especially the young entrepreneurs, top 500 companies, most of them are like below 30, definitely has changed the landscape.
One more thing which is happening is that people who are career professionals and they have been able to create wealth for themselves towards the later part of their career, they are turning back into being the venture capitalists or the capital providers, or looking at newer fresh investments for themselves, and that has helped the entire ecosystem a lot.
Okay, so when it comes to acquisitions, right, what is the most appealing factor? Because lately there has been so much discussion on sustainability, eco-friendly initiatives, giving back to the society. So is that still a thing in M&A?
I think it will grow. It is not yet, I don't see it being a great factor till now. But I think the most important thing in M&A has been that, look, capital availability for some time has been there for large businesses. So it's much easier for them to acquire more and therefore grow, because growth after a certain point of time becomes a challenge.
Yes.
So now you're going towards, I mean, if you utilize that capital well and you're able to grow, and then if you want to get into sustainability and things like that, it's much easier for you to do it. I think the challenge today is availability of such businesses on a larger scale. There's still not many businesses who are large enough and focusing only on sustainability, because somewhere that cost factor is still playing on the minds of people.
Yeah. It's funny because lately we were part of boot camp, and one of the investors, when I checked upon their website, they're funding only sustainability. Well, they're encouraging sustainability.
Correct.
Is it because they want to diversify their portfolio, or they truly have that motive of making things sustainable?
No, so I think they believe that sustainability ventures today will become much bigger tomorrow.
Yes.
Because tomorrow, in 5 to 10 years time, that will become a very large one.
Of course.
Okay, so I think they are making these strides today, because look, for a small fund, okay, it also becomes very difficult way to deploy capital. Okay, because you probably have only 300, 500,000, maybe up to $1 million to deploy. In large businesses, that money is irrelevant.
Yeah.
So therefore you really have to pick up things of the future, wherein this kind of a small capital is relevant today, but it also gives you a large return tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Today, unfortunately, those businesses focusing on sustainability are not big. So for a large company, even if they want to do it, it's much better to focus on their own efforts rather than go and invest.
Gotcha. You're talking about X and 3X. At least from the last boot camp, one thing I came to know is investors look at least 25% return if they want in. That's the base criteria. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's general, like applies to most. What is the base criteria you look for in an M&A?
What we look for is much less to do with the financial return, but much more that from X to 3X, when the entire size of the company becomes larger, then what is the overall wealth created. We spend a lot of time over there, that how it strategically fits. So for example, if today we are in agrochemicals and we acquire a tires business, okay, it will not gel. Okay, and it will not even be taken well by the investing communities and the investors and so on and so forth. So therefore, from agrochemicals I can go to pharma. It makes sense. I could probably go to other specialty chemicals. It still makes sense.
Some overlap.
So therefore, how would the portfolio look like? Whether we can bring in some good elements of what we have been successful in the business to other businesses or not.
Gotcha.
So therefore you look at the overall portfolio, you say that, okay, this is what we want to be, and therefore let's acquire X versus Y.
Makes sense. So it's all about whatever adds value to your
to the portfolio. For a financial investors, it's much more to do with, okay, where can I make more money? So similar processes can I probably, and a financial investor may invest in an agrochemical today and a tires company tomorrow and a mattress company day after. I mean, it makes sense for them because they just go after the best opportunity.
Got you. The goal is different. You're trying to more strategize, to make sure things are gelling well or not. Going back to your M&A simulation,
did you enjoy it?
No, I really liked it. I was amazed because after the completion of it, at least I think I was speaking to next day to you, you were telling it, the power of storytelling.
Correct.
It doesn't matter, there are big banks there are big investors there, people are pitching about it, but it's about how good you pitch the story and get them onboarded. So were there instances that the story sounds so nice, but then when you go in, it looks like a sham?
All the time. Look, also what happens in M&A is, which people sometimes don't give adequate attention to, is that you will never find a perfect target. If you'll find a perfect company, okay, then why is he selling? If you find a perfect company with a perfect reason to sell, which means it's going to be very expensive. Okay, so therefore you kind of come to expect some issues over there always. I think typically what happens is that when you're doing scouting, you're trying to say that, okay, what can I acquire out of 100 different companies, and these are my top 10 is what I would want to acquire. Typically none of them would be available to you.
Okay.
What would probably be available is the 50th one. And then you have to take a call that do I spend my resources on something which is like half there, half not there, and try and make it well, or I overspend and acquire something, or I don't do anything at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies go towards not doing it, not doing anything at all. And that's why you see in every industry there are some typical acquirers, some companies who are like very acquirers, and some companies who are very good. They have excellent resources, but they've never been acquisitive. They've never been able to acquire anything. Simply because they always seek perfection.
Okay.
And you cannot be perfect in this thing at all.
When a deal happens, not because the party other side is perfect, but
correct,
you make some exceptions, some excuses along the way.
Correct. And you look at the larger picture, and you say that okay, what this gives me is what I focus on, instead of what is not there, because there's always something to fix.
Yes.
Okay. So it's like buying a second-hand car. Right? Why is somebody selling it? Because his priorities are different, or maybe there is something which is there, and you kind of accept it, right?
Yeah.
You will have to spend more money on repairs and things like that, but it still drives well.
Yeah. But there could also be cases where the person who's selling has a real some need, and that could be a genuinely nice car.
Correct. No, I agree. So all those happens, but again, if he has a genuine need and he's not been able to sell at top dollar, which means the market conditions are bad.
Yes.
Okay. And if the market conditions are bad, it will be so much more difficult for you to justify to your investors and even raise money or do a lot of more things. So it's difficult always. It's never easy.
Gotcha. So were there cases where that you completed the M&A and the companies completely fell apart?
So there were cases in which we completed M&A, it fell apart, but then we could rebuild it altogether. Okay, so I've acquired brands, for instances, which completely fell apart in the first 2, 3, 4 years, but then we rebuilt it based on. We did a lot of experimentation of what works, what doesn't work, and in the completely new avatar, that company came and that brand came and became the highest brand of the portfolio. That has happened. In some cases, of course, you realize that it's a bad acquisition and you just write it off, or you sell it to somebody else. All of those instances happen all the time. It's a part of experimentation. You can never be, even with investing, even with organic investing, you see capex being done by companies. A lot of time it doesn't work. So it's just that M&As has much more scrutiny from everyone, that they get highlighted, but it's the same everywhere.
I thought M&As it stops after you merge, and acquire and merge, it stops. Is it not? So because you were giving an example of reviving a brand, so you also deal with reviving?
Yeah, of course. You deal with integration. And after integration, whether it gets assimilated or whether it takes the shape of the acquirer or not. In a lot of cases, it may not. In large acquisitions especially, you talk about Satyam. Why do you know that Satyam is still there? Because it's still probably not assimilated fully, because it was so big a company. So it still retains its identity, and therefore for years together you might have to look at it as a separate entity and then try and grow it.
I mentioned before you did MBA from IIM.
Correct.
And you're doing an MBA again with INSEAD.
Correct.
What is the motivation?
I know that question is coming.
What are you expecting?
I ask myself that daily. I think after 10 years of my graduation, I think I had kind of taken the entire juice out of my MBA learnings, and then I was kind of yearning for more. So I've always been a person who wants to experiment or explore more. Going back to when I was destined to join my family business, I didn't want to do it, right? Come out. So therefore that whole thing of experimenting think seeing the world out there has always twinkled my eyes. And therefore, I think I looked at this opportunity as another kind of opportunity wherein I can go out, meet new people, explore what is out there. Otherwise, I thought would have been very, very difficult to do. I think that's what motivated me enough to kind of explore whether I can do it, and what more can I achieve in my professional career and also, in terms of my personal growth.
It's amazing that you have that zeal for experimentation. It's coincidentally, I was reading a book called Who Moved My Cheese. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I have.
Right? So it's always about you need to reinvent yourself. If not, you're going to become extinct. So there is that aspect.
It is pretty much that aspect, because I think somewhere I would have plateaued out, because you're doing same thing over and over again. Very interesting, of course. My field is very, very interesting. It's excellent. A lot of people have a lot of they're very curious about M&A, what happens, how do you guys do it, and so on and so forth. But it's like, what more? How more can I go out and explore? What more can I do as an individual? I don't want to be extinct.
Gotcha.
So early. That's what kind of motivated me to take up this.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but it's been very, very, very good experience.
Imagine a young graduate just coming out of college, or like maybe INSEAD MBA. If they want to get into M&A, what would you suggest?
So I think the difference between a young professional, if I look at a typical MBA, what are you taught? You're taught marketing, you're taught finance, you're taught strategy, you're taught operations, and so on and so forth. All those aspects, they focus on one part of businesses. Okay. I mean, marketing, of course, focusing on marketing. Finance, unfortunately, is a lot more accounting based and looking at financial statements and so on and so forth. I think M&A is a subject which forces you to look at a company holistically. And over years of my experience, so anybody who wants to make a career in M&A should actually start with understanding companies or sectors. How do they kind of survive or make money? Once you do that, then you kind of get to how do investors look at it, how do companies grow, and that's where the role of M&A comes in.
Gotcha.
And once you understand that, M&A processes in terms of what could be the valuation methods, what could be due diligence, all of that will come. I mean, those are more technical aspects of it. You could pick up, you could read a book and pick that up. And I think we also discussed it in M&A simulation, right? I mean, because, for example, you take a multiple based valuation. On itself, it's of no use. Okay. But tag it together with other methods of multiple, and then you look at the context of the industry, and it starts to make sense.
Yes.
Okay. So therefore, what I've seen people not concentrating enough is that whole how companies are making money. And what is the DNA of a company. So a DNA of infrastructure company will be to make margins, but for example have their working capital which is very high. Okay, whereas a DNA of a technology company will be to focus on tech products with their working capital being very low.
Yes.
So such kind of understanding is what people need to have. Once they have it, they're more interested in such nuances. I think they'll make a great career.
So in the last podcast, I was talking with Natalia, because part of her was a trader. She was telling there need to be a certain personality to be a trader, especially forex trader. Is it something like that, a certain personality to be a M&A?
I think you need to love the research aspect of it, because if you're not able to spend enough time looking at data, researching, understanding it, then you're just going to do probably brokerage.
Got it.
Okay, there's a lot of part of M&A which is just brokerage. Okay, you want this, okay, this is the company who wants to buy, this is the company who wants to sell, let's make a deal out of it. Those careers don't last long. Somebody who's like more research oriented, understand what numbers actually mean, that's the kind of personality that you should have.
Makes sense. Natalia asked for the next guest, and you are the next guest. The question is, if you have given a chance, whose mind you would like to know?
In our GEMBA group?
Anywhere in the world, anyone in the world, in the past, in the present. Like, for example, she was interested in knowing Hitler's and Stalin's mind because of the, cruelties they have committed. So whom would you like to know about?
I think I'm inclined to say Steve Jobs. He was such a visionary that if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have got the products that we have, especially not in the same time frame. I'm sure a touch screen phone would have gotten delayed at least by 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Okay, and similar products, for example, putting music on a thin device like an iPod. If he hadn't done it, Sony would have still given us the Walkman.
Yes.
We would be walking with the Walkman so much, at least for few more years.
Yeah.
So I think what I would be very interested is, how does something like that come into your mind when it's just so unconventional?
No, it's interesting because Steve Jobs, in one of his autobiographies, he says you can only connect the dots looking forward, looking backward, not looking forward. But I can see he's very good at connecting dots because the touch screen technology was there. But
Correct.
No one thought they'll marry a mobile phone and a touch screen together. But he did.
So therefore, I think, and a lot of his biographies I've tried, I don't think they give a full picture. So therefore, how do you really envision the future or create one? It's very difficult, because I have worked with businesses, with founders, with large companies. I mean, there's so much already in their own businesses and everything to do. How do you really isolate yourself, create something for the future? That's what I'm very, very fascinated about.
So we came to the end of this conversation. What is the question you have for the next guest?
What I would want to know from the next guest is that, let's say, for that person, if there are no constraints today, no constraints of time, money, geography, what is it that they would like to do and why?
With that, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I think we had a lot of insights on M&A challenges, how culture plays a role, blockchain, how it can affect sustainability initiatives, and some personal anecdotes. With that said, we'll be back with another interesting conversation. Stay tuned.